should be played at high volume. This should be played at high volume. This should be played at high volume. Preferably in a residential area.
The following thoughts on Hoppe Hour do not represent Cox Media Group or its sponsoring. Anything you hear may and will be used against you. Thank you. Voted as best local podcast in Tampa Bay by the Creative Loafing. You're listening to Hoppe Hour.
What up? What's happening? This is Hoppe Hour. I am your host, Ryan Hoppe, and I'm pretty pumped about this next guest. I've known this dude for a few years now, and he is radio veteran Larry WACHS. He is the host of the WACHS Modcast. He is on Hoppe Hour. What's up, dude?
Thank you. What's up is, first of all, let me just say that you messed something up.
What's up?
Okay, you spelled my name right, WACHS, and then you said the WACHS Modcast. Why would I go to the trouble of calling myself Larry WACHS if it wasn't the WACHS Modcast?
That's a very good point. I do like how you market yourself. You have made a big name for yourself in Atlanta with those 5 letters. I respect it.
Right. I didn't mean to come on so strong at the beginning and sound like an asshole, but I'm very sensitive to my marketing.
I did like how you marketed yourself maybe like 6 months ago when you had the release event. I saw all these pics on your Twitter for your app, and I thought that was pure genius because most podcasts don't even have an app, and I feel like you're one of the few dudes to ever have a release event for it. I thought that was marketing gold.
What are the stats? I don't even know. Is that right? I didn't know. I assumed most people had an app for their podcast, no?
Some do, but most just have it on iTunes or TuneIn. But not that many shows have their own app, per se. Most just say, go to iTunes, go to TuneIn. But very few shows, Larry, have their own app. Maybe a handful.
I feel like a pioneer.
You are one. How has everything been going with the podcast? I was saying to you all off air, I love the production you put in and the way you're just a really good talker. It comes off very refreshing. It's just very good talk radio.
Well, thank you so much. I'm a good talker. I mean, I like the way you put it, just plain and simple to the point. And that's really what it's all about. Just to be a good storyteller, and you'll go far. Nobody in the history of radio has not won without being a good storyteller. All the big names, everybody who made a bunch of money in this business have been all storytellers.
Has that grown over the years, or were you a guy that would talk throughout your life, or did that kind of grow over the years?
Well, you always develop. You're not going to sound in a few years like you do now, right? You don't want to stay sounding like this.
Of course not.
Right? I mean, yeah. Everybody develops at their own way, their own pace.
When was the time that you grew over the years? Was it when you were on in Los Angeles or when you moved to Atlanta? When was the moment when you knew you were good at it, Larry? Had to think about that for a second, right?
I think I've always known I was good at it. You just get to different stages where I always thought that I'm really good. I'm so much better than I was. I didn't know anything 5 years ago. And then 5 years later, it's like, I didn't know what the hell I was talking about 5 years ago. Now I got it. And then 5 years later, and that's just life. You're only each age once, so you learn as you go along that what you think about your expertise is you'll never get to perfect. So you're always going to improve if you keep trying.
Do you ever listen to your old work as you get older and maybe think it's a bit hacky or odd? Because I'll listen to my old work and I'll roll my eyes and I'll be like, oh, that was me trying to be a shock jock. So for you, do you ever listen to your old shows and like roll your eyes?
Always. I cringe. Yes. It's anus clenching, some of them, especially the first 2 years of the regular guys in Los Angeles. We were so hate-filled. If you put that show on today, there's no way we would make it past a week. It was everything the left-wingers say is hate-filled. Every word was hate.
Was that you guys just sort of putting on the act of being on in Los Angeles after Howard, so you felt like you had to be edgy, or were you guys being genuine?
No, we were kind of trying hard to be edgy. We weren't genuine. we were genuine to some degree. I mean, we felt passionate about the topics and we took real positions. And, we got carried away in our personal lives, too, with our personal convictions about stuff. It's a trap everybody falls into when they're doing this kind of thing. But, we were also trying very, very hard to convince Howard's audience that we were worthy of their attention, because Howard was on the air every day telling his listeners that it was practically, he put a KLSX jihad out. I mean, anybody who was on that station was no good. And it got real. I mean, when you're sitting back there in the abstract, it doesn't seem like a big deal, but, we were threatened with violence many times at Howard appearances and other station functions, because, Howard every day was telling people that station sucks, and by extension us. So we tried extra hard to rise above the pack and try to be more of what we thought Howard's audience wanted out of a radio show.
Would that make you mad that the biggest name in radio, the biggest name, is just trashing you guys, or did it just make you fight adversity? What was your take when he's saying this every morning about you guys?
Well, it kind of intimidated us, but it did motivate us to, fear is a great motivator. It's probably the best. And we were scared to death that we didn't want to lose this gig. Listen, I came from washing tables at a restaurant. Eric was a janitor. And then we're back all of a sudden an afternoon drive in Los Angeles. I had quit radio for a couple of years, crisis of confidence, didn't know what I want to do. And I drifted around. And then all of a sudden we're in Los Angeles, and we're on with Kato Kalin, who was the center of celebrity controversy at that time because he was in the midst of the O.J. trial. I stood next to him as he was sedated when the verdict was read, and there's a video on my YouTube channel of that. So it was kind of a crazy time, and we were just under a lot of pressure to succeed because it was scary to think of losing all this.
Was there a part of you that wanted to be in Los Angeles longer, or was 2 years pretty good for you guys?
No, I would have liked to have been there more, and we could have done that, but we made poor choices. And although we wound up in Atlanta, which has been great to us for 18 years.
So how was the transition from going to the second biggest market to being in a market that is big, that's a top 10 market? What was the listening audience like from Los Angeles to Atlanta? What was the whole transition like?
Oh, that was an easy kill because, first of all, it was culture shock. And we had heard radio that Atlanta had never heard before. And we were in the midst of a radio station that was unlike anything Atlanta had ever had in its history. And so we were bringing that, the West Coast flavor of rough and tumble Howard Stern style Los Angeles talk radio on FM, and we brought it to Atlanta. And we just kind of scorched the earth. We just went after the Morning X was the hot show at the time. And I thought, this is the hippest show. It sounds like an adult contemporary show. It really is, bland, and everybody's so nice and likable and alternative at the same time. And we just came in and said, we're going to blow them apart. We're just going to reposition them as a really gay station. We call them the Morning Excrement. And it stuck to this day. People still tell me they used to listen to the Morning Excrement. And they were fans, but they still, the name still stuck. So we totally repositioned them, and once we got their eye off the ball, the whole station came tumbling down. They tried to resurrect it. They had Fred Toucher there for a while, and he was pretty good, but then he went to Boston. But they never recovered from that, and we kind of that was the first blow that we went after, and then we just kind of raked our competitors over the coals. And I had to do some repairing of relationships later on. Like Jimmy Barron, I'm friends with now, but, he was my mortal enemy 15 years ago.
What was it like? Let's say you would see people from the Morning X in town or some of your other rivals. Would you go up to them and talk to them? Or were things heated back in the day in the Atlanta radio scene?
I was hyper-competitive, so I was addicted to them.
Is there a part of you that wishes you weren't like that, or do you not take it back that you were kind of a hard ass?
It happened. That's how you learn in life. You decide, you find your balance. Say, how much of a dick should I be? Like, how much of a dick do I have to be Bill Burr? I don't know.
You have this act on air where you're very outspoken and you seem kind of like a hard ass. Is that the true Larry W. ACHS, or is there a soft side to you?
I think it was, I was trying hard to be a hard ass.
Were you happy when you would drive home? Because I've talked to other people on the show that have said that they didn't like when they were shock jocks, quote unquote, because when they would drive home, that's not who they were. Was there ever a part of you that wishes you weren't like that?
No, it's just not a fun way to perform. When you're performing like that, you're not finding the funny. Then you start to believe that you are right about almost everything. You have the right position. And it just becomes rigid. You're not with the flow. You're not. The first thing is to be likable, and then if you happen to be right a couple of times, bonus to you. But too many, I guess, shock jocks or hosts, talk radio hosts, they're more amenable to being right than liked, and that just turns people off. So you got to be, sociable. You can't be antisocial. I guess that was the antisocial portion. Radio brought out the antisocial side of me because it's populated by antisocial people.
What were some of the craziest memories from the regular guys in Atlanta? What were some of the craziest bits that you guys ever pulled off?
Well, I have to say that the two that got us fired in two separate incidences, which were national news. And so those are the wildest ones. I mean, if they get you fired, they're pretty wild. We had a girl explicitly talking about sucking cock and getting fucked in the ass on the air. That came over a commercial accidentally. So it was in the wake of Janet Jackson. So everybody.
Oh, that's no good.
No, everybody was on eggshells and tenterhooks and whatever. And then so they said you got to go. And but that was good. That was like It was the first time. So for a first-time offender, they pay out your contract for 9 months, which was a ton of money at the time. And you have a 9-month vacation because then Clear Channel came calling back. They wanted to put us on WGST, which is a shitty AM station. And we tried that for a month, and it was just a miserable failure. And then we went back to 96 Rock. And then 2 years later, we got canned again because I went into the bathroom, and the Mexicans from the Mexican station, they're in the bathroom whooping it up in stalls right next to each other. I mean, every day they would come in, and they would have their post-show meeting while taking a shit. I'm not making this up.
How weird was that for everybody in the office?
Yeah, I mean, right. Okay, that was my first thought. This is a cultural oddity. Okay, this doesn't happen in America. Maybe in Mexico, but I'm learning. And it's like National Geographic for me, so I taped it. I taped their conversation. I want to play this for the fellas back in the show prep room. So I go back there, and the program director, Chris Williams, is in there, and we're having our show meeting. I said, guys, got to hear this. These two are singing songs, this Yogi and Panda. They're singing songs to each other in adjacent bathroom stalls, and this happens a lot. And we're laughing it up, and the program director tells me, you got to put that on the air. That's great. I said, done. Tomorrow I'll do it. So we did it. We did a bit out of it, and so then they get all pissed off, the Mexicans. And the Mexicans complained. Clear Channel says, listen, they were doing a bit. It's fine. And but the next thing I know, next week they kept going, pushing and pushing and pushing. And even the program director who approved it, he knuckled under. And we got rolled under the bus. They said, yeah, we're gonna fire you. Clear Channel said, we're gonna fire you because these guys are putting in a criminal complaint against me. Criminal complaint. But I eavesdropped on them.
How annoying is that where you think you have your boss's back and then he fucks you over?
How annoying? Annoying is the least of it.
Fair enough.
Now, I was like, oh my God. So they cut me off at the knees. No payout of the contract. There's like another 5 months left in the contract. No payout. One last check. And then nothing. my ex-wife had put together a nice $26,000 Amex bill. And let's see what else is going on. Then I'm being sued civilly, and I got to go to jail to bond out because they complained about the taping. Oh, it's a fucking mess.
So how did you guys go from being off air to then being on Rock 100.5?
Well, we were out for like, probably a year and a half. And we went our separate ways, me and my partner, Eric. We just went our separate ways. Southside Steve went to a country station to be the third banana there in his series of Third Banana. He just got promoted to second banana on the show he's on now. So we had, just time to, I did a month at Free FM in New York after Opie and Anthony. JV and Elvis got kicked out because they made some Chinese joke. And I took the slot, and I received so much hate from their fans. Every call was a prank, but it was fun. A nice month in New York for CBS, and they changed the format. I went back to Atlanta. And then I got a call from the Dickies, are you interested in putting the regular guys back together? I said, sure. And that's what happened.
How mad were you when you're up in New York City and you're trying to make a name for yourself and the Opie and Anthony pests keep giving you prank calls?
Well, it's not bad at all because it's a great experience to have because you learn so much from it. I mean, I did a month you have to understand, I did nothing but ensemble regular guys, 4, 3, 2 mics, whatever. I never did a show by myself. And now I had a chance to do a show by myself in the number one market. Not a great radio station, not well listened to, but it was listened to. It had a following, and to try to hold my own again in another situation where, like Stern was telling everybody how much we sucked. I come to this station. I'm between Opie and Anthony, who are that Anthony's mean as a snake, and who's the other guy? Oh yeah, JV and Elvis. Their fans were talking to me every single minute. I mean, I thought I was going to get rocks thrown at my skull walking to work. So it was trial by fire. So I learned a lot. I learned how to do my show by myself, prepare it, and talk for 3 hours under a great deal of duress. And they really liked what I did. They were about to give me a contract, but then like I said, the format changed.
How sad is it that basically FM talk radio is now dead, besides like 102.5 The Bone in Tampa and Real Radio in Orlando, Florida? How sad is it that that format's sort of disintegrating?
Well, let me ask you something. Here's what I want to know.
What's up?
What do you do for the radio station in Tampa?
I work in promotion, so I work a good amount of their events. I set up the tent, I set up the table, and I'm also occasionally a guest on like Drew Garabo Live, Mike Calta, Roger, and JP. So I've made a name for myself being a guest on their shows, and then I do this podcast on the side, and I'm a board op and a phone screener for the shows when they need me. So I'm basically trying to be the jack of all trades that everyone can have trust in.
Okay, here's my question.
What's up?
Why the fuck don't you have your own show?
I mean, I'm honored
Why
that...
the fuck? I'm not talking to you, Ryan. I'm talking to your bosses. Why the fuck doesn't this kid have his own show? You know, the demise of FM talk radio that you said is easily fixed. I'm not sad about it. It just doesn't have to happen, and I know it. It's an easy fix. The answer, put guys like Ryan Hoppe on the air. Give them a show. You can't go wrong.
I mean, that is the ultimate goal for anybody that's going into radio, and that's obviously my goal, too. I've come so far within the last 2 years. I was that nervous kid at the morning show boot camp when I met you, and now I'm doing pretty good. I feel good about myself. That obviously is the ultimate goal, but I won Best Local Podcast last September, and I'm hoping to...
I know you. I'm looking at your Twitter feed. I'm looking you won all these awards. You do a podcast. You're the most aggressive fucking kid I've ever met in my life, Ryan. Do you know this?
I appreciate that.
Kid. I mean, you're the kind of kid, I look at you, I see your stuff. I've known about you now for 2 years. You've networked the hell out of yourself. I see at all these conventions, and you're not on the air. It just boggles my mind. You have more experience than all of these executives at all these companies, being on the air and selling yourself. I mean, you got a lot to work on, but you seem to have the energy to work on it and more. I think you're going to be a mogul one of these days.
If you were to give me a show, what would the format be? Would it be talk with some music? Would it be an overnight freeform show? How would you do it?
I have my own magic, and I will be more than happy to share it with you. I'll tell you what, when I do get a job, it's going to be a package deal. I want Ryan Hoppe on my staff.
I'm down. Larry.
You down with that? Are you down with that?
I am down with that, Larry. That sounds like a good time. I feel like I can learn a lot from you because we both are outspoken guys. Obviously, I have a ways to go in radio, but I've never felt better about myself, and I feel like I'm getting better after each show, you know?
You can't help but. I mean, that's the nature of this. It's like basics. Repeated brings the mastery that you need to be noticed, and you'll get it. You need to work on a lot of things, but, you know, we'll get to that one day. But let me ask you something. What is radio station's opinion of you in general?
When I first came to town, everybody was kind of annoyed with me because I was trying way too hard to fit in, way too hard. And now I'm just kind of being myself. I go about my business, and I have a much better vibe of everybody in the office. Everybody could not have been more gracious to me so far. I mean, Tampa Bay just seems like the legit market for me. It's sunny out. There's hot girls. People are cool here. And they're real.
I want to go there. That's where I want to be. That's where my gal pal Breezy Boo's from. I mean, I want to go to Florida. Get me into that Tampa scene. There's a lot of good radio going on there. Let's do this. Come on.
The listeners too, dude. They eat up radio. They love them some good talk radio. It's not like other markets where they're okay with average morning shows that are hacky. Down here, they know if it's good radio or not. They're very smart listeners.
Yeah, that's what I've heard about the Tampa people. I want to be part of that scene.
How would you make it happen? How would you approach your show, Larry WACHS?
Well, you've listened to the WACHS Modcast on iTunes and Google Play. Get the app, right? You've listened.
Yeah.
That's roughly how I would treat the airwaves. So if you don't know what that's about, take a listen. And Ryan, what are your thoughts on the Modcast? What are your observations?
There's a lot of production. I love how much work and effort you put into it. And I like that you don't put out a show every day, because there's a ton of podcasts that put out shows each and every day, and you can just tell that they've run out of things to talk about. And I feel like with you, less is more, because it's just a really good half an hour. Like, I was driving in traffic, and it made the traffic go by. I was listening on the way here, and I listened at the gym. You're just very unique when it comes to talking. Like, you can go from talking about one thing to another, but the way you transition things is just really good.
Wow, that's exactly how I intended it. You're not the only person who's used those exact words, so I know I'm on the right track. I just like more people to listen.
Why should people tune into your podcast if they haven't heard it yet?
Why should they?
Yeah.
Just what you said. It's
but
unique. It's
how
original.
about you give yourself a little bit of a push? You sort of campaign for yourself in this 2016 podcast election. Why should they check out your show?
Because it's the most unique podcast in all of podcasting. It talks about things that make most people uncomfortable in the media. Why
do you think the media is so soft now? Especially
because
TV.
They're all pussies because they don't know what they're doing. They're all beholden to the government, and they all want to be in the in crowd in New York and Los Angeles and Washington. So they don't dare speak opinions of normal Americans because they'll get kicked out of their guilds. I've gotten into fights with Jimmy Kimmel over politics, Ryan. The things that we have said and things he has done to me would curl your hair. When he found out that I'm a conservative Tea Party member, the shit that Jimmy Kimmel gave me, the embarrassment, the torture, the malice, will not go unpunished. I assure you.
What happened with you and Jimmy Kimmel?
Well, you're gonna have to listen to the Modcast for that answer. But he's done some things. I've said some things, and. Very interesting. Very interesting.
So is your ultimate plan to get it on the radio?
My ultimate plan is to my ultimate plan is to die in my sleep.
That's exciting and happy.
Yeah, that's the best way to die. What way do you choose?
I guess in my sleep. My plan is I want to live to be 110 and to be in great shape, which is why I take care of myself each and every day. So.
Oh my God, that's my exact goal. I said 100, but we'll see how the technology goes or how bored I am. But yeah, that's what I do. I keep in great shape.
I just want to be the person that lives to the last breathing second. I don't want to die when I'm like 59 and I had 40 years left. I want to die when I'm like 105 and it's like Hoppe gave it his all during his lifetime. That's my approach.
All right, well, tell me, tell me what you're doing to reach this goal.
I mean, I don't eat the best. Like sometimes I'll go out drinking on the weekend and then that brings in munchies. But I also swim when I can, when I have time. And I go to the gym about 5 to 6 times a week. And one of my friends who's like 34 years old, he says, take care of your body while you're in your 20s because it'll sort of be the type of body you'll have for the rest of your life. So if you're in decent shape, you'll be in decent shape for the rest of your life. But if you're fat in your 20s, you'll be fat for the rest of your life. Am I right about that?
My experience is that you should really fuck around when you're in your 20s and 30s. You can always get the habits, but why waste them on your youth?
So I should just have fun?
Just have fun for now. But bear in mind, you're going to have to clean it up around 35.
So I have 13 years left of my prime, essentially.
Yeah, just go for it. Eat all the cookies, eat all the bullshit, drink all the beer, fuck all the girls, do all that shit. Get it out of your system.
How crazy were you back in the day, Larry?
Insane with, I used to get girls. The only way I could get girls in my early days of radio in the 80s was off the request line.
How would you do that? What was your pickup line when they would call in? Would they know who you are already? How would you get them in your pants?
Well, that's a good question, and I've written about this, but I haven't shared all my secrets. Basically, it worked like this. They would call in, and I would listen to their voices. And at first, you can't tell who the pigs are. You get fooled. You gotta learn. You gotta learn nuance. Like, I would interview them and listen. If their voice was appealing in the early days, I would want to meet them. And after a while, I got an idea about, after talking and listening to more than the voice, listening for vocal clues about their home life, any other boyfriends, what they did for a living. So I get a more rounder picture of their character. And then I had a bigger database of, what character and what voice sound really could predict what they'd look like, okay? And I got quite good at it, and I got a lot of hand jobs. I got a lot of this late-night fun in the parking lot. But it was creepy. I was a creep. I had creepy hair, had a creepy beard, but, this is necessity. I was a 7 to midnight guy, and I couldn't go to clubs like everybody else and have a normal weekend because my shift was 7 to midnight Monday through Friday, and then I had like a Saturday shift from 3 to 7. It was ridiculous. So I had no social life, and I used all my social skills on the phone to these naive Duran Duran girls who were just the craziest.
Does that hard work pay off in the end where you sort of give up your younger social life to grind in radio? Because that's what I do. I do a lot of odd hours.
If you want to be good at anything, you have to sacrifice to learn the craft of what you're doing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And you have to take the time. I took so much time, and that's another reason I took so much time. In college, I really barely went to class. I was just at the radio station, and I really designed my own curriculum at Ithaca College. Thank you. I only needed 2 years to get what I needed because after actually a year and a half, because I just stopped going in the second semester of my sophomore year at Ithaca. And I designed my own curriculum, got out of it what I wanted because I had a paying job coming up the following year. And that was that. I was done with college.
What made you want to go into radio?
I've always wanted to do it since I was, I guess, 6. I used to go to the store with my mom. She'd be blasting pop radio, and I just thought it was just so catchy, the jingles and the music and the precision and just the energy and the performance. It was just fascinating to listen to, so polished, and I was really hooked by that. I always have been a pop music fan, pop radio.
I was a fan of like Opie and Anthony and Howard. I've always liked that type of edgy talk radio. That's what drew me in, is guys that would be on the radio and speak their mind, because it seems like a very cool place where people can listen at any time, you know?
Yeah, well, I was raised as a girl, so, I had a disadvantage. And it wasn't until I grew into escaped my family, became a man, that I actually started liking those kinds of aggressive alpha male radio shows.
When did you become a man? What was the ultimate age where Larry WACHS is now manly?
Where to become manly or become a man?
Both. When was that moment in your life?
They always come at the same time.
Yeah.
Like I was manly when I was younger, but now I'm a man. But I wasn't a man. Now I'm a man.
You are a man, dude. So if people want to check out your podcast, where can they find it? If they are at the gym or they're driving in their car and they want to hear something unique and they're tired of the same bland AM talk radio or hearing the same 4 songs on the radio, where can they find your work, Larry?
All right, on iTunes, you type in House of WACHS Modcast. Same thing with Google Play. Get the app. All the episodes delivered right to the app every time. So this is season 2, and we're up to working on episode number 11 as we speak.
Well, dude, keep up the good work, man. I was obviously a radio geek growing up. Now I see myself as somebody in the radio business, but when I was a kid, I would look up talk shows, and I found the regular guys about 5 years ago. So it's been very cool to have you on the show, and I've appreciated everything you've done for me over the past few years that we've known each other.
You need to tell those people there, Cox Media. Okay, all right, you got to tell Pete Spriggs that you need a show.
Sounds good. I keep it humble because I'm so young. I just keep on grinding with the podcast. But if you want to spread the word, Larry, go ahead, my man.
All right, let's do that. I'll spread the word on you, and then you spread the word on me, and we'll see what we can make happen.
Sounds good, Larry. Keep up the good work, dude.
Thank you, dude.
All right, bye.
Bye.
And that was the one and only Larry WACHS as he called into Hoppe Hour. Speaking of which, this has been Hoppe Hour. I am your host, Ryan Hoppe, saying peace out.
Hoppe Hour. Hoppe Hour.